I'm Jake O'Donnell, and this is my 240SX pre-runner. So I wanted to do the cheapest possible. I was hoping it'd be like tune it and hopefully it'll run for a while. It lasted about 5 hours after the dyno and it blew up. Little background on myself. I grew up racing motocross and it got me into the dirt world. My dad was a big automotive guy. He's got a car collection of his own also, and really persuaded me into building stuff that's unique and different. And he's got a few cars that are very unique as far as chassis swaps, similar to what we did with this. My wife also drifts, so we've got car stuff kind of all through the family. The vision to build something like this was almost like meshing those worlds into one. It was a mix of 240SX shell, which was my wife's drift car, and then a mix between like my off-road truck that I still have, but is in fab jail, as we say. And I just wanted to build something that was kind of a mix between the two. This car started out as a drift car. It's a 240SX in 1995. I bought the car because I wanted the engine that was in it. So a buddy of mine started to build it as a drift car. There was like a cage in it, but it was kind of half built. It wasn't done. And I wanted the motor. He wouldn't sell me the motor. So I bought the whole car to get the motor. And the motor went into my Ranger. And way back when I bought the car, I had no intentions of doing anything to this car. I just bought it because I needed the parts I wanted from it. So it sat on my side yard for like maybe 2 years as just a cage shell with the parts that were needed to put an LS in it. And I ended up buying a junkyard 5.3 motor for it because the parts already bolted in. It had a Muncie 4-speed trans and like a CX Racing mount kit, just what I needed to basically make the car run with the V8. And the first vision of this was like, what can I make out of this car that's different, that would also be kind of a head turner and something fun? And that was like the first vision was, let's build this car, we'll take it out to King of the Hammers, we'll drive around the dirt, and we'll just have something that's fun, it's unique, it's gonna make people kind of look at it and scratch their head. And that was the first version of the car, which there's actually a video that Hoonigan shot of it at Pismo, probably 4 or 5 years ago in that stage. And it was basically strut tower spacers, like a UTV sized tire, and a junkyard 5.3 that somehow ran forever. we overheated it like 4 or 5 times that day, and it was pretty funny, but it kept going. And then obviously after going out to King of the Hammers, seeing the other cars there, seeing the trucks and the stuff that actually performed, it persuaded me to say, hey, like, let's see if we can actually make this car work and do real suspension and turn it into something that's really usable rather than novelty. And yeah, it went way farther than it ever should have been, but that's what turned into what you're seeing today. That's a question I get a lot, is how much 240 is left. And it's really not a whole lot. It's basically firewall, the majority of the floor, the trans tunnel, and then of course the part of the cab you see, the doors, the quarter panels cut behind or underneath the bedside, right behind the door, just for clearance for the tires. It does still have the factory throttle assembly, and it's hanging from the original firewall. It does have a different brake pedal, but that's pretty much it, just shell. And I cut off a lot of the unibody to make clearance for the frame rails that I put underneath it. It's very little, unfortunately. I wish it was more. So the first version of this power plant was, like I said, the junkyard 5.3. That engine actually stayed in the car during the first version of it having all the real working suspension. But what I did is I made the mistake of buying a turbo kit and putting a turbo on that stock 5.3 motor, and it didn't last. We did cheap parts. I wanted to do the cheapest possible. I was hoping it'd be like tune it way under what it should handle, and hopefully it'll run for a while. And it lasted about 5 hours after the dyno and it blew up. So that turned into what's in here now, which is a built iron block 6.0, and it's got AFR heads, name brand turbo parts. It's got a precision turbo smart wastegates. We did a Holley Terminator system to control it. It's basically everything that it needed to be the first time around. But now, when I did this, I had it built for the 1,000 horsepower range, and we still did the same idea, which was under tune, so overbuilt, under tuned. It's at wastegate pressure, it makes 750 horsepower at the flywheel. As far as the rest of the drivetrain, we have a turbo 400 automatic transmission with the manual valve body that's also built for the 1,000 horsepower range, and then a basically trophy truck rear end. It's a Camberg full floater with 40 spline axles and a big 10-inch ring gear, all overbuilt, again, to hopefully not blow up in 5 hours. So far I've got a lot of seat time in it now, and it's been pretty reliable. They're one-off, and it's some of the only things I've ever done with fiberglass other than just repairing like a crack. This was a Ford Ranger fender flare on the outside. I cut the outside edge off, and then the inside is a 240SX, like an S14.5 aftermarket fender. So it matches the door line, and it has like the base headlight pocket. I cut those in half basically, and then graphed them together, and I shaped this headlight pocket in the front here to just try to make it look like it's designed to fit the car and to kind of give the headlight some shape. But as far as having zero fiberglass experience and knowledge, I'm definitely happy with how they came out. And that's, I'm not a bodywork guy, I'm not a fiberglass guy. I've never really done anything with it before, and to go from nothing to a finished fender, I did all the bodywork and stuff myself too, and it was definitely, it turned out better than I expected. It's mainly just a gutted 240SX shell with a drift style roll cage, NRG bucket seats, and a fabricated center console and dash. I did it all myself. It's all just aluminum panel work, and not anything pretty. It was just put it together and make it function and get my gauges and stuff to where I could see them. And again, more performance based than aesthetic. Early suspension stage of this car, the first set of I-beams I had built for the car, actually, I asked the fabricator that did it to put a rake in the beam to make a low ride height, which was specifically for keeping it a car. I wanted it to sit low to the ground. I wanted it to be, visually kind of a car still, and that didn't really work. They did what I asked, and unfortunately, we were having trouble where it was dive and hit the bumper on the ground going through bigger whoops, and it showered dirt over the car, and it just didn't have the ground clearance it needed. So with the revamp of the front end, Wide Open Customs is a shop that did the beams and the steering. They completely redesigned these way more like a traditional truck's setup. We also upgraded to a 37-inch tire. It was on a 35 before. So with those things together, we gained about 5 inches of wheel travel and about 7 inches of ground clearance, which was huge, because it was going from where I was worrying and having to check up coming into a big bump and hoping I was gonna hit the bumper and stuff real hard, and to where now it's like, don't have to check up for anything, just point and shoot and keep the pedal down. But it's definitely way more usable now, and that would be what I'd say was probably like the biggest problem with the car drivability the first go around, and that's completely fixed. Everything was built in my garage here and out my driveway. It was 100% just from scratch. And I mean, as far as the tube layout and stuff, I actually used masking tape, and I would stretch out a piece of masking tape, kind of lay masking tape in the shape of what I think I wanted the tubes to look like, and that would give me the the length and the places I thought they'd be. And then once it sort of made sense, then I'd make the tube and I'd put the tube in place. And I used a electronic level, was able to level things and make sure that the chassis is as square as I could get it. But if you put this on a jig table, I'm sure it's far from square. But yeah, I mean, it was really just trial by error. I just wanted to one piece, I'd try it, something didn't work, I'd cut it off, and I'd do it again until it took shape and turned into something usable. I would say, as far as the saying one piece at a time goes a really long way with this car, because the early stages, it was really a joke. I slapped a set of bedsides I had from a different Ford Ranger that aren't what's on it, but just that I thought, I wonder if this could fit. And it was like, I held it up to the car and it looked way better than it should have. And then it's like, okay, let's cut them and see if we can make them fit. So we cut the front of it off and mounted it to the body, so it kind of looked like it flowed with the shape of the body. And it was just another one of those things where it was like, okay, well, that works. So, what's next? And, each step, things kept working and working and working. And then now it's a fully usable car. No, so I mean, as far as metal fabrication goes, I really just taught myself. I mean, I learned a little bit from my dad. I mean, he taught me the basics of welding and that type of thing. But as far as like building this car, this is the first real car or chassis I ever built. And I just built it and kind of just or winged it. It was like a little bit at a time. And I bought a tubing bender and a notcher, and I had a welder already, and I just went for it. And as I built this car, my welding as well as my fabrication progressed. It was things from fitting tubes got easier as it went on. So like the middle portion of the car is kind of where I started, which was like basically taking the roll cage and extending it into the back half. And as you get further to the back half, like tubes started fitting easier and things just started making sense. My welds get better. So like some of the welds on the interior are okay, and then the ones in the back get much better. And yeah, it's just, you know, piece by piece basically. So self-taught. I'm definitely no professional by any means, but you know, it's safe enough. I'll put my friends in it, and if we crash, I'm not scared they're going to get hurt. Some of the stuff actually up front that I did more recently, I'm pretty happy with, especially the front bumper. I redesigned the front bumper and I vented it, and I also cut the actual fiberglass bumper just to get the airflow to the radiator. The way that all came out, because it was something I didn't really want to do, it was like, I don't want to have to cut this up because then it's going to look like it has holes in it. It's going to look like, you know, it's just not going to look clean. And after I did it, you know, just with the shape of the cuts and to try to like mimic the shape of the skid plate, and I kind of just, you know, visioned it to be uniform, and it came out better than I expected. I'm pretty happy with how it looks. Also, the aluminum work I did on the actual cowling of the radiator, I've never done anything like that before. So like, you know, it was really some of the first panel work I've done. It came out pretty good. It was where it fit really clean, and it looks nice, and it just was a little outside my comfort zone as far as fabrication goes. So I'm pretty proud of the way that came out. Another thing too, that I actually got the idea from Odie Bocci's, the Pro 1 Formula Drift driver. I saw in his Pro 1 car years ago, he had the Sylvia headlight skinned and then had like an LED bar underneath, and then it opened with the hood. It was pretty cool. It was like, I was like, that's a good idea. I'm going to save that in the archives, and one day I'll use it. And sure enough, on this car, I skinned the headlights, and I've got Baja Designs lights mounted behind them to like simulate the original headlight, but it's actually got like, you know, a proper off-road light underneath. I like the way those came out. I think they look really neat, and especially because it's not something you see right away, but the more you look at the car, it's like kind of like a little Easter egg thing. It's like you're like, oh, look at that underneath the headlight lens. There's off-road lights, and you know, I do like the way that came out. I'd say the early stages that were difficult would definitely be just the initial layout of the frame and the tubing in order to get the frame rail square with the back half of the car, and then to make tubes land where they need to for clearance, and to make sure that shocks were going to fit, and to make sure that, you know, a big solid axle that was never supposed to be under a car like this had room to travel up and down. That was probably the most difficult part in the early stages. More recent, actually, the things I've had probably the most trouble with in the whole build is cooling. I've had a lot of trouble keeping the car cool since it's been finished. I've been through 2 different radiators. I'm now onto a new radiator with a cal system I made that's basically ducted the whole front of the car. I had a oil cooler that was in front of the radiator that I think was kind of preheating the radiator. Also, I moved that out, and I think we're to a point now where it's going to be pretty drivable and hopefully have that problem fixed. It's still giving me trouble, so that's been definitely the thorn in my side. As much as I hate to say this, I probably would not have turboed the car. Not only did it cost me a ton of money, because the first go around it was a waste because all the parts that I bought originally got thrown away, and then it turned into me buying a built engine and all the right parts, and it probably cost me 30 grand in oops. So, you know, if I could go back in time, I'd probably not turbo it for, you know, the ease of drivability as well as the cost. But now that it's done, I mean, like the wow factor and the coolness of it being turboed, and also like the nostalgia of like it being a JDM car and having a big turbo and it makes all the silly turbo noises, it's worth it. But if I had to pick one thing, that's probably the one I'd say. I would like to race it at least once, just to say I've raced it. And I mean, I really think it'd probably be pretty competitive because it's got more power than it needs. It's light for an off-road car, and you know, it's got 22 inches wheel travel in the front, 24 in the back with, you know, a 37-inch tire. I mean, that's pretty competitive in a few classes. I know the Mint 400 does like a unique class. I think I don't know what it's called. I think it's like it's a novelty class or like a unlimited class, but it is kind of limited because it's not like, you know, trophy trucks don't race it and stuff. But I remember a girl a couple years ago raced like a lifted limo in the class, and it was just cool because it's like, you know, why not? There's a guy that races a Miata also. You know, something like that would be cool because it's like I'm not trying to go compete with a bunch of big trucks that have 1,000 horsepower, but it would be cool to be able to say like, you know, I not only did I race it, but hopefully complete a race with it. It would be cool. It's definitely on my bucket list.
Guess what, motherfucker? We're bringing the Burnyard back to SEMA.
That's right, everybody was saying, y'all not coming back, we coming.
Listen, we're talking new build reveals, giveaways, athlete signings, and a whole lot of burnouts.
We probably shouldn't be letting the building.
That's why they keep us out front. SEMA 2025, we're bringing this shit back, baby.